under your butt.
Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that usually helps you get more out of movies, but today I'm going to steer you clear of one of the worst movies of 2019, and certainly the worst movie on Netflix this year, Brie Larson's The Unicorn Store. So this movie is easily the worst thing Netflix has put out this year, and I know some of you already have your fingers on the keyboard. You're going to tell me this movie was made in 2017. Yes, it was, but the movie itself is such a piece of shit. No one wanted to buy it or distribute it until 2019 when Netflix thought they could make a quick cash grab and release it right alongside Captain Marvel. This got released in April of 2019, just a few weeks after Captain Marvel premiered in theaters. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that Netflix just saw, hey, here's a cheap movie, we can grab it, it's got Brie Larson in it, she directed it, people will be happy because they're clearly gonna go nuts for Captain Marvel. And yes, I'm wearing the glitteriest shirt I could get my hands on because it's totally appropriate for this movie, and we'll get into that. But what sucks about this movie? Let's start at the start. So the movie opens with Brie Larson's character, whose name is Kit, who I will henceforth refer to as Brie Larson for the rest of the video. You can forget about what her name is in the movie because it doesn't matter. It opens with her painting, and she's super happy to be painting. She's covered in paint. She's making the kind of mess that only a 3-year-old with autism could make, and no, that is not a joke against children with autism. I actually used to volunteer and teach art classes to kids with autism and other disabilities, and you know what they look like after we painted? They looked exactly like this. So she's painting, she's painting, she's painting, she backs up, she admires her work, and then we see she's in what appears to be an art class. Everyone else is standing next to self-portraits, and she is given a failing grade on an assignment that was possibly a self-portrait to do with negative space. And not only is her painting not a self-portrait, it's of a unicorn, okay, there is zero, and I do mean zero, negative space, and I do know what I'm talking about. I have a Bachelor in Fine Arts. There's no negative space in it, and she completely ruined the wall the canvas is on. And this is not done comically, like, there's no levity to this, it's not a joke. She is heartbroken. She could not be sadder at this moment, and this is how the movie starts. Now, this is kind of a common thing in storytelling where the hero fails at something and then spends the rest of the movie sort of learning how to overcome it, or at least overcome their shortcomings. This movie has none of that. It's shocking at the lengths that they go to prevent Brie Larson in this movie from learning anything. And we're only 30 seconds into this movie, and there is so much wrong with it. I could go on forever about this one scene, but here are just a few points. One, no one would be painting in front of their professors like that. Everyone else is done with their artwork, and she's painting it and making a total mess in this studio space. She didn't follow the assignment, which we covered, and she's absolutely talentless and has not even like cursory knowledge of composition, negative space, color theory. She has none of that, yet she's in this like seemingly academic environment, and we're supposed to side with her and not the professors and the people who did what they were supposed to do. And I actually had a kid like this in my freshman year of art school, and we all hated him. We all felt like he was there because he thought it was going to be an easy A. He didn't last. It was an embarrassment every time we were in this situation where we all did what we were supposed to do, and he did some crazy bullshit that made no sense and was not artistic. He is Brie Larson in this movie, or she is him. I can't keep track.
He's a she. He's a she. What?
And I could stop right there because this represents the movie. The movie is just mindless drivel that doesn't really go anywhere, but it is so fun to point out some of the stuff in this movie. So let's move forward with the fact that her character is an absolute piece of shit. She's got the ambition of a 13-year-old, and she's clearly an adult. She's drinking wine a few minutes after we see her just laying on the couch, and she doesn't even appear to be suffering from depression or anything. At first I thought maybe she did have like autism, or at the very least she was on the spectrum. There's no mention of that. Apparently she's just sort of this adult that has no direction and is just sort of leeching off of her parents, and whose feet are inexplicably covered in glitter for some reason, and they never address it. The bottoms of her feet are covered in silver glitter. It probably makes a mess in the entire house, and they never bring it up.
I don't like this.
This isn't real, and I'm a business lady now. I'm gonna buy graph paper!
And her attitude just fucking sucks. I know I sound like a boomer, but it just sucks. She's a very, very unlikable person in this movie. But you would assume, okay, this is the beginning, this is the low point, and we're in store for this character arc, yet it never really materializes. So let's keep going and explain how it never materializes. She eventually gets a job at the pressure of her parents, where she has this creepy boss that's kind of hitting on her, yet I have a problem with that too, because that element, they spend a little time on it and they never explore it. It never really comes up. It's, again, nonsense.
I'm saving up for an island, you know, small one, someplace remote. Plenty of sand. What are your long-term goals?
I would like to not be a great disappointment.
And unsurprisingly, she kind of sucks at her job, and she gets this invitation, this crazy looking invitation, and ends up going to this, what I guess is supposed to be a unicorn store. They address it as such, yet it looks nothing like a store, and it's here where we get a glimpse at the best part of this movie, Samuel L. Jackson.
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
Now, despite being given literally nothing to work with, he does a pretty killer job. Like, he's nowhere near as good as he is when Tarantino writes his dialogue, yet, again, it's mindless drivel, and he's at least entertaining. Like, he's got a screen presence, and that's not a knock against Brie Larson. I mean, she's an Academy Award-winning actress, okay? And by no means am I, like, really critiquing her acting ability here. I'm really just critiquing what has to be a shitty script to begin with, and just really poor directing from her, because yes, she did direct this movie.
Is that like a personal attack or something? How do I explain this? I'm just not that good at it.
So she's at the unicorn store with Sammy. He's explaining she's gonna get a unicorn, but she has to follow these rules, and it seems like it's probably a delusion, but spoiler alert, it's not. It's not a delusion. It's all real, ultimately. It's kind of like reverse Fight Club. You think this is like how her brain is teaching her to become an adult. No, there's actually a unicorn store that doesn't have any unicorns in it. So, which means it's not, by definition, then a store. It's not even a showroom, because there's no... This movie hurts my head way more than it should. So then she proceeds with these rules that are like, you know, she has to have a house, she has to have like the stable environment. It's the types of things that she should already be well on the way to having as an adult who's clearly, and she's at least 22 years old in this movie, probably, I think she's like 25, maybe even a little older, which the older she is, the crazier this concept is. But then she has to start to kind of put her life together to get what she's always wanted, a unicorn. It's a loose metaphor, but okay, let's go with it. But again, ultimately, it's not a metaphor, because every time I think about the fact that it's a real unicorn, I get like a, it's not, I wouldn't call it a pain, but it's like a dullness right here. So she begins to develop, slowly develop, and I mean slowly develop, a love interest. He's kind of all right. He seems like a decent guy. I have no idea what he sees in her other than the fact that Brie Larson is really attractive. I guess that's what he's interested in, so he helps her fulfill all the things on her list, and she clearly wouldn't be able to do it without the help from this guy who probably shouldn't be spending all of his time helping out this insane person. But the whole love interest aspect is kind of thin and really unnecessary to the story. It doesn't do that much for it other than just like, oh, I guess we have to have a love interest. By the way, all this is supposed to be somewhat whimsical and fun, and it's like an absolute snooze fest. So together they build a really shitty looking stable, and she spends an inordinate amount of time dyeing hay in the basement. Totally unexplained, by the way. And meanwhile, all this is going on, she's preparing for a major presentation at work for it's marketing for a vacuum cleaner, which makes sense. So she's prepping for the unicorn, and she's also preparing to advance her career with this presentation. And it's building up, she's got this presentation, we're not really seeing what she's doing, we're getting little glimmers. Obviously, it's gonna involve glitter. And then there's all this build up, and this is her presentation.
Lights!
Mystic, back.
Mystic back! And whoops!
It's all over the floor.
We can clean up all this glitter.
Are these fairies cleaning your house, or just regular people?
Again, nonsensical nonsense. No call to action, no reason to buy, no real concept or creativity. Eccentricity is not creativity. And she is rightly, at least the movie gets this part right, she's rightly fired. And at this point, we're way, way into the movie. She's learned nothing. And we're way into the movie. And then she gets her unicorn, and like I said, it is a real unicorn, and there's this big moment, and we're back with Sammy, thank God. And then she goes out and she talks to the unicorn, even though I think she knows the unicorn doesn't know what she's saying. She has a very, very long monologue with the unicorn, and basically, even though she's wanted it her whole life and she did everything she was supposed to do, she suddenly, with no pretext, decides to give up the unicorn, citing some sort of like, let some other girl enjoy you. Again, she hasn't really learned anything other than maybe the fact that she doesn't deserve a unicorn, which if she didn't deserve it, then maybe Sammy shouldn't have fucking given it to her. So growing up for Brie Larson in this movie really consists of just accepting the fact that she sucks and is going to be this aimless, whimsical goofball, and she sort of like accepts herself, but again, doesn't really learn anything. She's happy at the end of the movie, which she definitely was not at the beginning. However, she was happy at the beginning. She was very happy when she was painting until she got to look at her professor's face. So logic would say, oh, she could have been happy had she just, I just hate the concept of the unicorn store. Her character's an awful person. The movie's not funny, it's not entertaining, it just kind of is poorly put together and poorly directed. And then on top of all that, it's fairly worthless. There's no, like, I don't understand how this got financed. I mean, I know she's kind of an important person in Hollywood. I guess she didn't need a ton of money to do this. And then with Samuel L. Jackson being her friend, because they did that King Kong movie together, he agreed to be in it. And so they basically, if he agrees to be in it, you got a movie. Maybe he should have thought twice or at least read the fucking script before he decided to be in this movie. But hey, she's got another movie she's directing called Lady Business, about a couple of women that create a fictional man to run their business that's based not on a book, not on a short story. It's based on an article. So get ready for that one. If there's another movie you want me to do a video like this on, let me know in the comments below. If you think there was a worse movie that Netflix put out this year, feel free to let me know that as well. Maybe I'll check it out and let people know why not to watch it. But I will keep making videos like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one. I'd like to thank all of the Patreon supporters. They make videos like this possible. Really, they make all my videos possible, but ones like this that are different, where I don't know how well they're gonna be received and I don't know how many views I'm gonna get, I don't have to worry about that because I've got a support system with Patreon. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, there's a link to that and some other ways to support the show in the description below. But if you're new, clicking the subscribe button and the little bell icon is really the best way to go.